Todd Howard responds to the Fallout TV show controversy.
IGN just posted an interview with Todd Howard and Jonathan Nolan around the Fallout TV show. This interview being a special one as it seems like it's one of the first interviews to occur after the premiere. So we get to hear all kinds of responses to some of the major fan controversies, like the full explanation on what's going on with this timeline, some clues on what is actually going on with the NCR and what might come in Fallout Season 2, and even Todd Howard gets asked about Fallout 5. And right off the bat, Todd Howard makes it clear he had very specific desires from the Fallout TV show as he describes, "I wanted something that would stand up as another entry in the series as opposed to retelling one of the games we did and sort of treat it like we do a game and move the timeline forward and we do some great things." It seems
this confirms my theory that the Fallout TV show was intended to move the timeline forward. So the next game has actually a new timeline and new things can happen. Because Fallout has never really had a storyline that moves forward. It's just, you're in the apocalypse, a bunch of bombs fell, and now you need to find your dad, kid, or maybe a gecko or something. Have fun.
Seems like Todd Howard really acted as the lore master for the Fallout TV show, correcting any lore mistakes and just generally informing the creators about the lore. But he reports not having to correct all that much information and even how they were so all over it and wanting to pull things from every game, from Fallout 1 to 3 to New Vegas to 4. There's even some 76 stuff in there.
Well, the fact that there's 76 stuff there is kind of bad.
Todd Howard describes how the Fallout sets were filled with fans, even down to some of the cameramen being fans of the games, and seemingly the bulk of Todd Howard's
Oh yeah, we heard about this. This is the part that proves that the people making the show were not fans of Fallout. Like, one of the big things was, oh, the humans walk like NPCs in Fallout 1 and 2. That's very specific. They did it because they're fans of the show. The showrunners didn't do that. Turns out it was people who were fans of the games as extras who said, hey, can we move like the NPCs in Fallout 1 and 2? And they did so. This was not a thing that the showrunners intended. It's something that fans wanted to do, and the showrunners let them. The showrunners had absolutely no intent in doing any of that.
Consulting on the TV show had to do with getting the tone down as opposed to specific details, with one major exception, and that's when it comes to the pre-war scenes. Reportedly, the showrunners really enjoyed creating a lot of the pre-war content for the show and asked a ton of questions about that, with Jonathan Nolan saying, I think the
Yeah, the pre-war stuff from the show was good.
part that was the most exciting but also nervous-making were all of the flashbacks. And it was something that, as we were talking about it, Geneva and Graham, who are the two showrunners on the show, were getting more and more excited about telling that story about what happened before the war. What precipitated the war? Cooper Howard's story, one little sliver of that larger story, and a little bit more of an insight into Vault-Tec. For me, these are some of my favorite scenes from the first season of the series, and with how well it's being received, along
Yeah, all of the scenes with Cooper Howard before the war are good.
with how much fun they seem to have had making it, I'm hopeful we'll see a lot more pre-war content in Season 2. And even from this interview,
I hope this is not one of those arguments. You know how hard it was to make the show? You know how much fun the showrunners had making it? So you can't say anything negative about it? I really hope that's not gonna devolve into that dumb argument.
I think we get some clues that we're going to be seeing more of this in Season 2. Jonathan Nolan makes it clear that he hopes his journey with Fallout has only just begun, but even further explicitly saying that he hopes to continue the pre-war story in Season 2. I think we're just so excited. I think, again, those flashbacks, that storytelling.
Well, there's a lot to be told about them, and I want one question answered. His wife is actually kind of not a bad person. She's relatively a good person because she wants to protect her family. And that's essentially why she's a part of Vault-Tec, and she wants them to be in the good vaults. And that does not make any single shred of sense. Because how can his wife not be in the good vault if she is clearly a high-standing person in Vault-Tec? The people who are shown to be under her, below her status, are already getting into the good vaults. So how would she, for whatever reason, not get in a good vault? I don't get it.
those characters, those actors was so much fun for us that I think if we're lucky enough to continue telling the story, that will definitely be a part of it. Todd Howard makes it clear that every time they do a Fallout game, they want to push the overarching story forward in some way, and it seems like that was a sentiment shared in a major way by the TV show, as the Fallout TV show showrunners wanted to blow up Shady Sands, and actually brought that idea up to Todd Howard.
What a choice.
A lot of the speculation online was Todd Howard wanted to remove Shady Sands from the Fallout lore, and it was his idea, but no, it actually wasn't. The showrunners approached him, so Graham and Geneva wanted to blow up
Well, if they want to blow it up and Todd Howard doesn't like Shady Sands, yeah, he's gonna do it. Of course he's gonna do it.
Shady Sands. The first time they brought that up, you're like, what do you want to do? I had an emotional reaction to it given the history of that location in the franchise from Fallout 1. And we talked
But nothing about Fallout New Vegas. It all seems to fit so neatly, huh?
through it, and it was, this will be a pretty impactful story.
Okay, anyone who does not think that Todd Howard does not have a vendetta against Fallout New Vegas, though, is clearly not a human at this point. But, you know, that's okay.
A moment that a lot of things anchor on. And just so people hear it, we're careful about the timeline. There might be a little bit of confusion at some places, but everything that happened in the previous games, including New Vegas, happened. We're very careful about that. And so when they brought that up,
doesn't seem like that at the moment for a lot of people.
Threading that needle to make sure that that was a moment that landed in the show, they also move things forward in terms of what's going to be happening in the world of Fallout. So of course, all of this is around the timeline we see in Vault 4. It portrays the fall of Shady Sands in 2277, followed by a nuke blast symbol. Most people took this to mean two separate events on the timeline. There was the fall.
Because they are, clearly. If these are not two separate events, then why is there not a date to the nuke? Because if they can even name the fall, that's not actually the destruction of Shady Sands, but the start of the downfall, how the hell do they not have a date with the nuke? Because that would probably be by far the most accurate and obvious one.
Fall of Shady Sands, or when things began to decline, and then later on it ended up getting nuked as we see in the show. But some fans out there took it to mean that Shady Sands itself was nuked in 2277, 4 years prior to New Vegas, and that would cause issues with New Vegas lore. But Todd Howard makes...
I mean, no one's talking about the ghouls now being, not feral until they go feral if they don't drink a magic potion, okay? No one's talking about that.
This aspect of the story completely clear, as that is not the intended way to read this timeline. All I can say is we're threading it tighter here, but the bomb falls just after the events of New Vegas. That's why Shady Sands blows. And he makes it abundantly clear that the fall of Shady Sands does not mean a nuke landed on it, that it's talking about something else. So Shady Sands is nuked at some point during or after.
I think he just understood the heat, and then they understood, wait a minute, we kind of screwed this one up, didn't we? So, yeah, I think this is a retcon of the movie already. Not the movie, but the show already. Because they accidentally effed up, and, well, it doesn't make sense, so now they're trying to make it make sense.
2281 when Fallout New Vegas takes place, and the fall of Shady Sands likely refers to a decline in the city as opposed to the fact that it had recently fallen. And with what Todd Howard said earlier, that this will be a pretty impactful story moment that a lot of things anchor on, it very much so seems like the fall of Shady Sands becomes a major plot point. And I mean, if you just watch Season 1, I feel like that's pretty obvious. The city ends...
Again, it doesn't make sense. If the fall of Shady Sands is so important, why did it get nuked later on? Because if the fall of Shady Sands is the actual fall, and that's when everything truly kind of just goes south and everything gets destroyed in reality, what's the point of nuking it? There is no point in nuking it. It's already gone. It's already fallen. There's no point in nuking it.
With a nearby city getting unlimited power. This all occurring right next to a vault with Shady Sands survivors who still are loyal to the NCR to some degree, and will likely move into this new city and probably want to get some revenge. We also know one of the main characters with Maximus was there the day Shady Sands was nuked, and I'm sure he's going to have thoughts and feelings on all of this as well. I wouldn't be shocked if all of these major stories are really hinging around what happened at Shady Sands and what they want to do now as a result of that. And if there was any confusion confusion, Jonathan Nolan here also makes it abundantly clear that the TV show is canon, mentioning how we didn't want to be our own little private corner of an Elseworlds or in a different universe. I think that would be less meaningful to me. Everyone who worked on Fallout, all the games were so respectful and so careful to keep the consistent universe. If we'd gone
the games were not even respectful to keep the universe consistent and the lore accurate between each other. They retconned everything they pleased. So, yeah, the show obviously is also going to retcon things.
Different direction, the show would be the only thing that doesn't fit with that universe. And I completely agree with this. If a Fallout TV show was coming out but declared before release as non-canon or as existing in its own separate universe, it would likely make the process of creating that show far simpler, but it would also make it a lot less enjoyable for me. It's fun that
yeah, that's true.
These things matter, potentially even for some of the future games in the Fallout franchise.
It's gonna matter a lot because the games are gonna be probably made after this point, or at a point where we know the impact of whatever happens here.
And it described that the fact that the show is lore-friendly as more of an asset than a challenge for the show overall. As well as an interesting anecdote that Jonathan Nolan himself describes in this article is as a techno-optimist in real life. Expanding on this to say, I think this is one of those things that's always so exciting to me about the Fallout universe where, look, there's a lot of darkness in this world and there's lots of satire that has a lot to say about our world. But amidst all of the apocalyptic lore, there is also a sense of optimism. There is a sense that out of the pieces of this world, there's a possibility to craft a new future that might work a little better than the one that they left behind. This is a really interesting...
This is the first time I have heard this idea even put, that there's a sense that they can rebuild a better world. The concept of rebuilding, yes, everyone's trying, as the show said, by the way, everyone's trying to save the wasteland, but in their own way. That's accurate. But the fact that they're trying to rebuild the world in a better state than it was no one remembers the world before the bombs fell at this point. That world doesn't exist. No one knows how it was. In the Fallout series, pretty much almost no one remembers it. No one knows it. No one understands how it worked. So rebuilding a world that's better than the one that they lost? That is complete bunk.
That they left behind. There's a really interesting quote as it begins to touch on the other major controversy from the Fallout TV show with nothing really mattering. It looks like the once powerful NCR is destroyed, at least in Los Angeles. Reducing a growing region to another stagnant wasteland. And even with the literal ending of the Fallout TV show, it looks like New Vegas is also destroyed. Which basically neuters all of our efforts during the story of Fallout New Vegas. Whatever we do, whatever we accomplish, it won't matter because 15 years later, everything's destroyed again. But what I think's going on here is Season 2 of Fallout will be more of a story of the NCR and really how the faction's being rebuilt, at least in LA. And at the very least, later in this
okay, the fact that the faction's getting rebuilt now doesn't mean that, those things did not happen, okay? That doesn't excuse what's happening.
Interview, they all but confirm that the NCR is alive and well in other parts of the wasteland.
But it doesn't make sense. You have a guy literally calling him the new president of the NCR, and no one's even caring. If the NCR was alive and someone proclaimed that they are the new government, and that they are effectively the NCR would not let that slide. That he would be dead, but he's not. And seemingly no one cares. Again, you can say the NCR is alive and well all you want, but the show completely did not show that at all. They in fact shown the opposite.
One of the takes that we always have is to approach things very locally when we're doing Fallout. We're careful about saying what's going on in other parts of the world, and we always take this view of communication is difficult. And look, if you look at the background, the NCR is a wide-ranging sort of organization and group across not just California, but other places. So the show focuses on this period of time and this group here, and that's what we can say right now. But I don't think you've heard the last of the NCR, and to me, I really just take this as a flat-out confirmation that the NCR are very much so alive alive and well out there, just not really in LA. And I again think this is where season 2 is really headed. We're going to be exploring the re-establishment of the NCR in LA, and I think this may end up being a very ironic moment where the TV show makes a faction falter. Season 1 doesn't really show us the downfall of the NCR, but it shows us a significantly weakened NCR after a downfall seemingly occurred. But over the course of season 1, several plot lines are set up that definitely make it seem like the...
Wait a minute. This is not even a guy. We don't even know if this is actually a guy from the NCR. It's kind of implied that he was a ranger from the NCR, but the idea that the NCR has not completely collapsed when their rangers, the highest, most deadly part of the NCR, are just randomly, now being metal scavengers and complete pussies, then what does?
Occurred. But over the course of season 1, several plot lines are set up that definitely make it seem like the NCR may be rising back up in season 2. And yeah,
no, none of these plot lines make sense. So first of all, if there is any remnant of the NCR and they're not actually completely destroyed, they would have went full force over to Moldova and tried to get the free energy for themselves as much as possible. They would have not wanted it to be left in anyone's hands but themselves. They would have waged full-on war against the Brotherhood. That is enough of a big thing to make the NCR just fully put everything aside and go do it. And Moldova had plenty of time to actually give the news out of that happening and the NCR mobilizing. But that's doesn't happen.
I literally think they just made the NCR worse for the TV show to show us a new story about them getting better. Kind of weird, but hey, let's see what they do with
That's stupid.
season 2 before I judge it too hard. But even beyond that, Jonathan Nolan describes how he has seen the commentary of Lucy being the good one, Maximus being the neutral, and the ghoul evil. But Nolan expands on this by saying Maximus is really the most accurate to the player. Maximus is generally just an okay guy, but you have to make some moral decisions to get that good thing. Like, how badly do you want that cool set of armor and that weapon? What are you willing to do to get that? And some of the features of the show may even end up...
I hate this idea. Whenever there's something stupid that happens in the show, I have heard this plenty of times already. That's just the representation of the player. Stop. Maximus is not the representation of the player.
End up coming into some of the games, according to Todd Howard. The thing I definitely want to borrow is I love the solve for how all of these weapons are carried around with that giant golf bag. So if I had a wish, you'd see that in game, like 76, really soon. This was legitimately one of my favorite additions from the show. It just kind of makes sense that you have this big...
No, it doesn't. It absolutely makes no sense that you have this. Dude. It's a power armor. You're literally walking around in a tank that gets destroyed by a ghoul because it has fatal flaws for some reason. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Dude, it's like I understand he can't have pockets for everything, right? But he can put it on himself. He can at least carry the weapon. Okay? This is dumb. And it's dumb just for the sake of being dumb. It's like, oh, how did they carry around all of this stuff on themselves as the players? Well, let's give them a pack mule. And they never actually stopped and thought, does this even make sense? We kind of solved the issue of why the player can carry stuff and why other people can carry stuff, but does this even make a single lick of sense? No, it does not.
Obnoxious bag to carry around so many random things. And I would personally love to see this added to both Fallout 76 and Fallout 4. Maybe even as a proper power armor backpack, as it almost looks like it was designed to be used as a power armor backpack not carried around by the Squire. The interviewer during this one asked about some of the things that aren't in the show, notably some of the factions, but also people like Ron Perlman. He of course is the one to originally voice the war never changes quote. And Jonathan Nolan has what I think is a great answer to this, saying that they want to pace themselves with the Fallout TV show. It's not going to be possible to get every aspect of the Fallout universe into just the first season, and we'll likely start to see some of these other things explored as the show can...
Yeah, this sounds just like lies.
Continues and more seasons come out. The games have hundreds of hours to explore and tell us about something, while the show only really has 8 hours to do the same thing. And reportedly, several celebrities have reached out about being in the Fallout TV show. Namely, Aaron Paul is interested in being in season 2.
Westworld is a pile of trash.
Already worked very closely with Aaron Paul. He does a great job in Westworld Season 3, and this interviewer even goes there with the big question, asking Todd Howard what is going on with the potential Fallout 5. I'm going to avoid putting dates on anything. I've learned that the hard way. So obviously,
Fallout 5 is going on. I don't care about Fallout 5 in this case. When it happens, and we're gonna see. I can't care more about it. Juicehead. Anyway, this was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I haven't told anything. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.